All right. Hopefully you're seeing everything. First of all, good evening, good afternoon for most, good morning still for the Pacific Coast people. Thank you, NESRC, for having us, Therm, present and getting all these great folks on board. We really appreciate everything you're doing for the industry. Quick, I think they're done, but I have some construction going on at my house. So if you hear any nail guns, I do apologize, but I think they're done. So we should be good there. So my goal for this webinar is hopefully to prove to the majority of you that carbon markets are a real and viable option for retailers, kind of no matter the size, whether you're a single store owner or a 2,000 store grocery chain, that we might have something to offer you. And I'm going to take something a partner said to me the other day. They're like, "Oh, this grocer, they think this money is funny money." That was the word they used. And my goal here is to kind of hopefully dissuade you that that is not the case. And again, that this is a real viable market to help you incentivize these decarbonization efforts that you are doing at your stores, especially as you start to explore natural refrigeration. So the agenda, I don't have an agenda slide, but I'll just kind of speak to it. A couple slides about Therm, kind of where we came from and what we do. A couple slides about carbon markets, the overview, what they are and how they work. Then we kind of get into refrigeration specifics, what we can incentivize. Then we got a couple case studies to share with you. And then lastly, as we spoke about, we'll have a little session for Q&A. And I really hope we get some good questions. I want at least 5, if not more. That's my goal for the group here. So little background on Therm, if I may. The core, we've been around since 2021. I joined the team in 2022. I personally live up in the Northeast in Maine, but our company is fully dispersed. We work across the country and in Canada. We also are starting to do some work kind of in Mexico, but fully diverse work from home team. We can help support projects no matter where they are. The core group of Therm, most of us came from an ESCO, an energy service company, and we focused on energy reduction measures. Basically, that means scope 2 reductions, right? kWh savings, lighting, drives, motors, pumps, maybe even some solar at times. And our niche, our specialty really was the retailer market, the grocery market, as well as industrial cold storage and distribution. And in that company, we were kind of known for finding these specialty incentives from either utilities or rebates, a lot of custom incentives to really help drive down ROI costs. And so when we founded Therm, we kind of like had this revelation that while scope 2 reductions were really, really important, we were missing the boat on kind of the largest emission source from these retailers and cold chain companies. And that is, as you all know now, it's becoming more in the forefront. That is leaks from HFC refrigerants. They are by far, for a grocer, they are the largest scope 1 emission source. Some say 40 to 60% of your emissions come from refrigerants. And we're like, wow, we really missed the boat. Let's found a company that can address that. And so what do? We went out to our retail partners and we said, how can we help you? And they came back with a couple of things. They said, oh, there's no technicians. Oh, these systems are really, really expensive. Oh, by the way, both of those NESRC does really well. So kudos to them. But we decided to help tackle the really expensive part. And so we kind of looked out into the market and we said, what can we do? What can we find? And we found this pretty cool opportunity with the American Carbon Registry to drive dollars into the sustainability refrigeration projects going to natural refrigerations by using carbon markets and carbon financing. And so we really use these as a tool just for that, to help drive down that first cost premium for CO2 and propane and ammonia systems. And that's what we set out to do. And that's been our core business and remains our core business. We've expanded since then. But today, that really is our core business. We'd like to call ourselves practical environmentalists. I wish I could snap my fingers and say, well, put solar on all your roofs. I'll convert all of your stores to CO2. But at the end of the day, all of those initiatives are really, really expensive. And so again, these carbon markets can kind of bridge that gap for cost. We've really become an aggregator of these credits. And our goal here is no project is too small. If you're a single store that has one rack that is 500 pounds of gas in it and you want to convert that to CO2, we can help you. No project is too small. And that is really novel in carbon markets, and why others have kind of failed. We've done a really good job at aggregating and getting many projects kind of across the finish line. And then lastly, kind of thanks to all you, our customers, which I'll get into a second, we've gotten various awards through the carbon market. ACR awarded us the Corporate Excellence. We have A ratings from a lot of credit agencies. And this all really speaks to the credit type that you, the grocers and industrial cold chain folks, are providing, which are really, really permanent projects. Once you install these CO2 systems, there's no chance of reversibility. And we are in a pre-compliance period, meaning you don't have to choose you don't have to choose natural refrigerants. You could choose synthetics. And all of that adds into really permanent additional projects that really make our projects within the thousands of carbon credit projects out there stand out. And I'm proud to say that because of all the effort we've done together with the retail grocery market, since we started in 2021, our price per credit has gone up nearly 40% from when we started in 2021. And that we'll get into what that kind of means in a bit, but that is quite profound. So again, I've talked about this. We really want to focus on various project types. This refrigerant carbon credits are our focus. We'll do a deeper dive into what this means. But this is kind of our incentive offering at the moment for retailers. We do get involved when it's appropriate with regional rebates and incentives. We are working with a lot of specialty states where they're offering different credit types through utility commissions. Just wanted to mention that. And our newest offering is food waste diversion credits, which means, hey, if you do something that keeps food out of a landfill, landfills account for a massive amount of methane emissions from food rotting. If you do initiatives that prevent food from entering that landfill, there's actually an incentive type for there. Just want to throw that all out there. But today, really, the core of the conversation is RCCs, or refrigerant carbon credits. A bit more about Therm. We have well over 1,500 projects in the pipeline at various stages. I'll admit not all of these are refrigeration projects, some of those food diversion, but the majority are refrigeration projects. The majority are retailers, both C-stores and traditional grocers, but a lot of our project types that have been actually the fastest growing category at the moment is actually industrial cold storage and distribution, as we start to see CO2 take off in those markets. But all the stuff on the right, I've kind of talked about it. We aggregate projects, we do it really efficiently and effectively. So again, no project is too small. We do a bunch of credit types. So if you come to us and say, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that, likely there's an incentive type available. But at the end of the day, these credits are what sets us apart is our marketing team, and one of those folks is on this call today, and how we tell the story of grocers and how difficult it is to choose natural refrigerants, because that storytelling drives a greater price premium in the market. And that's really what sets our team apart is the commodity price of carbon is really, really low. But through everything we're doing, like I said, with permanence and additionality, we're selling it way above the commodity price. All right, that's about Therm. And I don't like talking about us. It's a little selfish. What I really want to get into is carbon markets 101, refrigerant carbon credits specifically, and then case studies. So that's what we have left on the docket. So I'm going to take a little time on this slide because it is important and I want to get over the hurdle. And this is where people, again, mislabel it that funny money category. But carbon markets have been around, believe it or not, since the early 2000s. They were created as a cost containment mechanism for environmental action. And they're often cited as the cheapest and most efficient way for sustainability and carbon reduction action to be taken. So they've been around for a really long time. Why haven't you heard about them? Well, refrigeration within carbon markets is fairly new. Generally, the carbon markets were around what's called nature-based, right? Planting trees, preserving forests. And those have various issues. Trees can burn down, trees can have insects and rot away, literally. And so all those carbon sinks that they've been building have put kind of at times a bad taste in people's mouth for these markets. And luckily, we're really happy, but carbon reduction projects and avoidance projects, they're really gaining traction with our buyer group. And again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it's because of that permanence. It's because of You build a store with CO2, that thing ain't going anywhere for 10, 20, 30 years. And that is just really, really impactful in the market. So generally speaking, carbon credits are a shifting of funding from those who have climate commitments, net zero goals, who either cannot reach them today or there is just no option within their industry, and they shift that funding to folks who can take immediate climate action today. That's the goal, right? So Delta Airlines or any, pick them out, any airline, there's no such thing as green fuel. Those airline companies could stand by and do literally nothing. No one is forcing them to do anything. Or, and I should have mentioned this earlier, they can voluntarily, that's the key word, in the United States, we are in what's called the voluntary carbon market. They can voluntarily choose to purchase credits and offset emissions. They don't have to do that. It's voluntary. And so the concept is sort of strange, and that's what I want to get over to the group is that a large tech company or a pharmaceutical company or whoever is buying the credits, they are essentially subcontracting their emission reductions to you as a retailer or a cold storage company or industrial refrigeration company. So it's a shifting, right? On the right, the grocery store is doing the project. The airline or the polluter they have a commitment. They're trying to meet it. A lot of times, right, they just have such a, they are doing ESG carbon reporting. And at the end of the day, they just can't hit their goal because technology is not available. So they're shifting funding and buying immediate climate action today. So that's the concept. And I want everyone to kind of chew on that. And it really, at the end of the day, it's no different than if you are in solar rec markets, right? If you sell a rec, you're selling your right to say that your electricity is being generated from renewables. Even, and this is a bit more of a stretch, but even if you're taking the utility incentive, right? Why do utility incentives exist? Well, it's because the local government, the utility commission, is putting pressure on that individual, call it PG&E, individual utility to show that they are having emission reductions or kWh reductions within their grid. It's a very similar concept, and I wanted to get that over to you. So who should think about this? Well, if you are not doing carbon accounting, ESG accounting for your refrigerant emissions, then this concept should be okay to you. I mean, of course, everyone's going to have their own decision, right? But if you are a grocer who's saying, all right, store XYZ in the year 2020, whatever, 2021, if you are, counting your HFC leaks and saying, oh, that store leaked this amount of refrigerant, and therefore we are reporting that store had 500 metric tons of CO2 as an emission profile from that store, and you sell there, and then you convert that to CO2, and now all of a sudden you're at zero CO2e. That's what you're giving up, is that right to publicly say, yeah, we reduced from the quantifiable right from saying we went from 500 metric tons to zero. So if you're not carbon accounting, this really shouldn't impact you. And if you are carbon accounting, there are still ways we can help. And I would be remiss to say that it's not like you're not selling your emission profile for perpetuity. It's a period of time. So if your goal is in 2040, we can sell credits for a certain amount of time. And then all of a sudden, once the time period is over, you can then claim that again on your emission report. And then certain categories that we'll get into in a second, like a new store, that won't affect your emission profile and your reporting because there was no baseline for that store before. So my point is, even if you are reporting your emissions and your HFC leaks, sorry, not your leaks, if you're reporting your metric tons of CO2, you're reporting that, there are still options for you on the table. So carbon market size, where is it going? Who says what? So it was believe it or not, last year was a $2 billion industry. Depending on who you believe, Morgan Stanley, Barclay, Bloomberg, Stanley, a bunch of big names on this list. It doesn't really matter who you believe. But by 2030, they're saying, hey, this could be this will be either between a $50 and $250 billion industry by 2030. That is massive growth, massive growth. I don't know many other markets that are growing like that. Well, why is it growing? Well, there's so many buyers entering the market. There's well over 7,000 buyers that we sell our credits to, and we have relationships with a bunch of them. And I'll show you some of the names on the next slide. But more and more of these companies are coming out with net zero goals, and or their net zero targets are coming closer to dates. So we want to be 50% reduced by 2025, or we want to be quarter reduction by this baseline year by 2030. So those dates are coming up, and there's pressure from their investors and stakeholders that say, oh yeah, we got to show reductions, we got to buy some offsets. So the market is growing at an exponential rate. And again, I've already said this, but our price in the market is at quite a high price premium. We're well over 5x the commodity price. And the bottom right just says what you already know. Unfortunately, still today, natural refrigeration is the cost premium. And again, we want to use these credits as a cost gap between a synthetic choice and a natural choice. So I mentioned it last time. Well, who exactly is buying these? Well, we said there's 7,000 buyers. These market entries who I'm showing here, these were just active buyers who were publicly announced in 2024. Huge names on the list. A lot of these are our customers on the buy side. And let me back up for a second. Our company is funny. We actually have two groups of customers. So my team, I should have said this earlier, but my team is what we call credit supply, or a credit origination, which is the other buzzword in carbon markets. But I'm responsible for partnering with the actual person implementing the natural refrigeration technology. But the largest part of our business is on the buy side. So it's going out to these folks and getting in front of them day in and day out and saying, hey Hilton, hey Southwest, hey Takeda, hey FedEx, come buy our credits. This is why you should invest in the retail grocery market. So this is the largest part of our business, is going out to folks like these, securing offtake agreements from them, and getting the highest stinking price possible so that we can pay you, the retailers and grocers and C-store operators and industrial folks, the highest price per credit possible. Okay. That was Carbon Markets 101. It was 3 slides. It's maybe hard to digest. Please reach out if you have any questions on those. Because it is a difficult concept to grasp, but I think once you grasp it and do some due diligence and research, it starts to really make sense and paint a clear picture. So the rest of the presentation really is specific to refrigerants, refrigeration, and some case studies. So our goal at Therm is to make this really easy for anyone to adopt and to take a hold of. And so, again, at our last company, we did a lot of utility rebates, a lot of utility incentives. We want the process to look like that, look like a utility incentive. Hey, we installed a CO2 system here. We're going to get paid this much money. You do X, we pay you Y. So at the end of the day, it's a 3-step process. You, the customer, the originator, the supplier, the credit supplier, those are all the names. You do the eligible greenhouse gas reduction project. Next slide will tell you exactly what those project types are, but you do the project. We don't do it. Therm doesn't do anything. I shouldn't say that. We don't do anything project related. We are solely focused on carbon markets, developing the credits and selling them. But you do it. You do it with a partner. You do it with an OEM, with a refrigeration contractor, a consultant. You do whatever the project is. You would hire Therm to do 2 things. We would develop and issue the credits, which is a pretty lengthy process. And you hire us to sell them for you and get you the highest price, because frankly, most of our customers, they don't have a carbon desk sitting, down the hall. That just truly doesn't really exist. And so issuance, step 2 here, like I mentioned, it is a longer process. And I should really give shout. I don't know if any of my teammates are on the call, but steps 2 and 3 are really the core of our business. It's credit issuance, credit marketing, credit monetization, transfer, and selling. So our really fabulous operations team, they do everything. They have to hire third-party validators and verifiers. They have to work with the registry, pay registry fees, pay credit transfer fees, and they just do a really fantastic job of treating every single project, every single location as basically as a project, right? And getting that through the process with the carbon registry as fast as possible. And while that is happening, our credit monetization team is working really hard and diligently to get your credits, and ideally what's called a forward offtake agreement, meaning as soon as your credits issue or are now live on the registry, they are immediately sold and transferred to that buyer. So again, that's all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and I'm happy to explain it further. And there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. But really at the end of the day, I want you and your partners, your contractors, your OEMs, I want you guys to focus on what you do best, which is being really stinking good retailers and implementing cool refrigeration projects at your sites, and let us, Therm, worry about creating the credits and selling them. So what exactly can we incentivize? So we have branded this RCCs, or refrigerant carbon credits. There's a whole world of them, and it's growing, and it's quite fascinating. So on the top side of this circle is what I'll kind of generally call proper refrigerant management. So if you're sending out your refrigerants to be AHRI 700 reclaimed, we have a lot of reclaim partners out there. If you are doing that act before it is required, the AIM Act will make it required in the future. You can get a credit for that. You can get a credit for recycling and reclaiming your refrigerants. I don't think many people know that. ODS destruction, this might, I just want to throw this out there because it's an interesting thing for the future. So as you know, for years, the predominant refrigerant was R22, which has an ODS component. R22 is not yet eligible for this category, but if you're sitting on R11, R12, any of those older CFCs, those are eligible for for credit generation if you destroy it. And again, we have destruction partners. R22 is not yet available. The registries are saying it will be one day. I'm not sure when that is, but we're kind of keeping a pulse on that because that might be an interesting credit type to kind of offload some R22 in the future. On the bottom are project types. So these are all things you can do within your stores or facilities that are eligible for credits. So new construction, that is the easiest credit type in my opinion. But basically, if you build a facility with a GWP, I think the registry's requirement is less than 15, 1-5. It's not 150, I think it's 15. You are eligible for a credit. So what does that mean? Well, basically it means naturals. That means propane, that means CO2, that means ammonia. I don't know of any others out there that would be under 15. But if you build a new store, it's naturals, credit. And again, the idea there is you could have built that store with an HFC, you chose CO2. We're going to use these credits to hopefully bridge, or as much as we can, that cost gap between the two. Retrofits or conversions is existing stores. You convert a store from 404 to CO2, 404 to 448. If you lower the GWP profile of your store, you are eligible for credits. Lastly, I'll talk about leak avoidance quickly. I don't have many specific slides here on this deck for leak avoidance, but if you're interested, I'm happy to tell you more. But if you lower your leak rate by implementing a leak detection technology, and that technology, again, reduces your leak rate to a threshold under 25%, you can get credited every year for up to 14 years that your leak rate is, again, below that threshold of 25%. It's a pretty cool category, actually, because it's an annuity. But I'll talk to it quickly. We have to baseline your leak rate profile before the installation of the technology. And every year that you lower your leak rate from that baseline, you can get credited that amount. So again, it's an annuity. Every year it looks back to your baseline, and it's annuity for 14 years. It's a really cool credit type. The big news from us, and we haven't quite marketed this yet because it literally came out yesterday. We've been working on this for quite a long time, but the leak avoidance category is finally now eligible for both direct and indirect detection technologies. So before it was only direct, really it was only IR technologies, but now we can incentivize and credit indirect leak detection technologies, which is great. It's a huge shift. We're very happy about it. I should mention also that there is to kind of get the market going, there is a 2-year look back window. So if you've done these projects in the last 2 years, that helps kind of spur the market and get some action going within that. So where is this eligible? Well, look, similar to RIP, it is not for new construction. It is not eligible for new construction in California. But this is available in every other state and province of the United States. So all the rest of the 49 states for new construction. And I'm going to stop here, and I know it says through 2026. Well, why is it only eligible through 2026? Well, just like California already has the 150 GWP limit in place, Our friend, the AIM Act, as you know, for if you're a retailer, I should point out that 2026 is the retailer date. Cold storage is only eligible through the end of 2025. But essentially, once the AIM Act legislation hits, and well, never mind. Once the legislation hits, your choices of what you can build are more limited, right? You have to be under 150 GWP. So it doesn't pass that additionality test, right? More or less after 2027, you have to choose a refrigerant that's under 150 GWP. So therefore, it's not additional. So we got a couple more years, and again, there's a 2-year look back. So we have a little bit of a window here from, call it 2023 through 2026 for eligibility. Refrigerant retrofits or conversions, this is eligible everywhere in all the states. And we think there's a lot more of a runway on this. We're closely watching the market adoption of naturals, but this will be available essentially until the market adoption of, call it CO2 or any natural refrigeration within the United States is basically like 50, I forget what the threshold is, but call it 15 or 20%. So once the install basis is 20%, then this will stop being additional. But it's eligible in all 50 states, including California. We can bundle this with your friends with NASRC and FRIP to hopefully get you the most dollars possible, again, to help you choose that natural refrigeration choice. All right, let me pause. I'm just going to do a little build up. So I've been talking a lot about carbon markets and what project types are eligible. You're probably like, well, is this worth it? So again, this is my attempt at saying, hopefully it is worth it, because we're going to make this really easy for you. And these are all the different project types. But this is modeled after like a 40,000 square foot store, so kind of your typical average grocery store. So new construction CO2 is getting anywhere from 40, call it to 100K. And I don't need to read all these types, but generally speaking, the larger the store you install, the larger that CO2 refrigeration system is or propane system is, the more credits you'll earn, and therefore the more dollars you'll earn. On the conversion side of things, the way it works is actually they want you to target your leakier stores. So the leakier your store is, the more credits you stand to earn. So the better categories for conversions are 404 and 507. It's those high GWP project types. And I'll point out that we can incentivize 448 HFO conversions, 449. And lastly, the food waste diversion, we're seeing our customers get anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per store per year. And that's kind of actually the similar math for the leak avoidance. It's about $1,000 to $2,000 per store per year. And you get that for 7 years. And I said 14 years earlier, but it's a 7-year, what's called crediting period. You can reapply for another 7 years. And that can, again, those two categories can be a 14-year annuity, which can really add up and make a difference. I hope you guys have some good questions teed up for me, because I only got a couple more slides. All right, engagement process. This is pretty high level. So again, please reach out if you want to learn more. I'm gonna kind of go back in time a little bit to our early days at Therm, and I'll point out a weak offering of ours and something I believe that we've improved upon. So we actually have 2 options for payment. Previously, we had to say, all right, you do the project, we'll do all the work, we'll sell the credits, and after your project, you'll get paid 4 to 6 months. And people looked at me like, oh man, you're crazy. Is this real? I don't know. That's such a long time. Well, I'm finally happy to say that we're in a position and we feel so strongly about our credit offering that we know for without a fact that they're going to sell. So we have a much early payment option, which I can get into in a second. But generally how it works is we send, if you're interested and you want to learn more, we send you an initial high level data request. It just says something like, hey, what's the profile of your store, your existing store? How many pounds of what kind of refrigerant are in there, and what kind of refrigerant are you trying to go to? And from that, we'll say, hey, this is worth X amount of dollars. Do you think it's worth it? And from there, we'll go into more of a formal engagement. And if you say, yeah, it's worth it, and I want the money sooner, we have an agreement and a way to do that to help you fund that project earlier. And then once our formal agreement is done, that's when the true power of our team, I don't do much. It's my ops team that really does the bulk of the work here. And that's when they go to work. That's when they generate the credits, they issue the credits, they work with the registry, they hire that third-party verifier to check all of our work. And in that process, that's when we have to get a few pieces of data from you, I should say. And the only other lift really is you might get randomly selected from the verifier to do a site visit. And that site visit is pretty high level, pretty easy, very similar to like a utility site visit. The auditor is, I shouldn't say the word auditor, the verifier, the carbon verifier is really just checking that, hey, you said you installed a CO2 rack with 6 compressors. Just show me that rack. Let me have a quick conversation with you. Generally, those site visits are 30 minutes to an hour, but it's a low lift from the retailers. And at the end of the day, we issue the credits, like I've said, and we sell them. And everyone on this call, I don't know how many are on this call, might be wondering how we get paid or how you engage with us. Well, our offerings are actually no out-of-pocket cost. It's a percent proceeds split. And if we do option payment 2, that's how it works. Payment option 1 is we say, hey, you do the project, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars up front. So that's the first payment. And again, it's a lower price based on payment option 2 because we are taking on the risk and responsibility. But payment option 2 just says, hey, it's a percent split. We maintain a portion of the sale we get, and we pay the rest to you. So again, really low barrier of entry. There's no out-of-pocket costs. And I keep saying this, but we want this to look really, really easy and get really high adoption levels from you all. So the next 2 slides is going to focus on the data requests and what you need to actually provide to us. And so we're going to breeze through those, then we'll get right to the case studies. But new construction. So there's basically 4 things. And this is where I want to point out that we have a lot of really great either OEM or refrigeration contractors in the space. They can work with us alongside you to make this part easy, the data part easy. A lot of times, your contractor or your OEM, they have this stuff. They have the legend. Your contractor certainly has the charge verification saying, yeah, we charged 1,000 pounds of CO2 into this rack. Store open date, just saying, hey, the store is open to the public. Typically, we can find that, on your website or something. And the last thing is proof of payment or proof of shipment. Just prove that it went to that site undoubtedly. And again, partners or ourselves, we can work however you want to work. We can do that in conjunction. And new construction. It's a very easy lift, very low lift. Conversions are a bit more. There's a bit more work. It's still not a lot. There's kind of an extra category, 2 extra categories here. There's proof of recovery. So saying, hey, my contractor recovered 500 pounds of 404A and they met EPA 608 standards, or they followed those standards. So we just need an extra kind of proof there that says, yeah, we recovered that refrigerant properly. Same thing though, proof that you charged in the new refrigerant, CO2 or whatever. Proof that you did the project, an invoice, something like that. And then the last one, number 5, is we do need leak records from those stores to show that there was an HFC leak event prior. So I've worked with a lot of smaller folks where this has been, or smaller retailers where this has been a bit of a hurdle, and this kind of stopped us. But we're now happy to say that the registry is allowing us to use a default leak rate if leak records are not available. So it's just, again, it's one of those things where we are listening to our partners our customers in the space, the retailers, and say, hey, this is working for us, this is not working for us. We can then petition on your behalf to the registry and to the verifiers so that we can get your projects approved. All right. So backtracking, I showed you kind of all these numbers, trying to, believe me or not believe me, you said this might be too good to be true. I don't know. So what I was hoping to do is show you some NASRC members who have gone through this program and gotten some real dollars out of it. So Giant Eagle, we've worked with them on a new store they built in the Midwest area, pretty large store. They utilize propane and CO2, if I recall correctly, it was CO2 medium temp, propane low temp, or other way around. And so yeah, it utilizes 2 different natural refrigeration systems. And this was a really cool project because we actually had a forward offset agreement in the state that this store was built in. So we said, hey, if you choose natural refrigeration on your bill of materials here, we have a buyer with an offset agreement. We can pay you close to $100,000 to open this store. And so that is just what we did. So we had that agreement beforehand, and turned out to be a really good project. It generated a lot of credits, like I said, as a big store. But pretty successful, pretty fun project. And yeah, we always love working with Giant Eagle and helping them with their natural refrigeration intake. So the next one is my friends over at Quick Trip with a K, not to be confused with Quick Trip with a Q. This is Quick Trip with a K. Great group of folks over there in the Midwest area. So we've been helping them build out stores with CO2. And actually, since this was made, we're also helping them with when they remodel to CO2 systems. But my point in bringing this one up here is they're a C store. They're not a 50,000 square foot grocery store. And again, with our model, any store, no matter the size, we can make work. And again, good amount of credits here. They were pre-sold and delivered, and payment was made promptly to Quick Trip. And they are a member of NASRC, like I mentioned, and just doing some really fantastic stuff. And I should mention, I didn't mention this, but they use CO2 in their stores. All right, we are done. This is my last slide. So again, I really wanted to thank NASRC and everyone that hopped on this webinar. I really hope you learned something about the powerful tool that carbon markets can be. I really think it's a viable option to help increase natural refrigeration adoption in the United States. If you're a potential partner on this call and you want to go to your customers with this, please reach out. We have really cool, innovative ways to do that. And generally speaking, yeah, even if you're a grocer that isn't reporting on carbon, there's almost no reason you shouldn't do this. If you are one that is reporting, still please reach out. There are really innovative ways that our team can still help you meet your ESG goals and capitalize on carbon markets. And so really at the end of the day, our goal and our plan is to create a personalized monetization plan for any grocer. Again, whether that's a one store chain, one store owner, or a 2,000 store chain. So that's all I got, team.